Welcome to Digitally Creative. I'm your host, Vincent Ferrari, and joining me this week for the second time is my good friend. You know her, you love her. It's Amy from Amy Makes That. Hi, Amy. How you doing?
Hi, I'm so excited to be back again. It's crazy at how much time really hasn't flown by. But
We were trying to figure out before we recorded how long it had been since Amy was on,
yeah,
and I had no concept. I thought it was 2 years ago. It's like, okay, it was a year ago. So it was April 28th of 2021. Episode 95 was the last time you were on the show. And I mean, nothing's really happened, so I don't even know why we're doing this. Like, nothing's changed. Everything's the same. No, seriously. I talk about you a lot with my friends because it's just watching your meteoric rise over the last year and a half at this point. It's just been amazing to watch. I mean, last time we talked, I think you had just gone full time.
mm-hmm.
You had just gone full time. Okay, that was the big news. You
Actually, no,
had
I'm sorry. Yeah, I went full time in August of 2021. So,
Right. So it was okay. So you were thinking about it. You were starting to
Mhm.
lean that way. You had just blown off Etsy for the last time, which was amazing. You had just gotten the news that you got your account back the day before we recorded. And then you basically told them to pound sand, which basically made all of my listeners super duper happy. And since then you've just continued your rocket rise. So we looked up your subscriber count before when we recorded the last one, and what was the number?
It was 8,553 subscribers.
So now, just to put that number in perspective, that was 18 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And now Amy is at 80,800 subscribers on YouTube. And on Instagram, which this number blows my mind, but on Instagram, you're at 96,000 subscribers on Instagram.
It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. It was this year, really, that I didn't even have that many followers in the beginning of this year. I wish I knew how much I had, but it was like a couple thousand. It easily, like maybe 10,000. I think.
You were hovering around the 10 to
Yeah,
13,000 mark because
yeah.
you were there for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and then out of nowhere, because when you first mentioned we did some work together on the acrylic for your wedding,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, oh, that's going to be cool. She's got a couple of thousand followers, and then it was like, oh God, what am I going to do? Like, I
Of
started to
course.
panic because there
Yeah.
was such a wave of business came in off that mention. And I was like, and I hadn't looked at your numbers in a while. And I looked, and I think at the time you mentioned it, you were at like 20,000. I was like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
God, 20,000 people
Mm-hmm.
on
And
Instagram.
even that's a lot too. But yeah, I remember when you messaged me, you're like, hey, well, I messaged you and I was like, hey, I had this whole debacle with another acrylic shop that I ordered from. So I was like, Vincent, can you just make me some blank acrylics for my wedding? And you're like, yeah, of course, just give me a little shout out. A little shout out on Instagram. I was like, sure, no problem. And the funny thing is that I wasn't planning on making like a full blown tutorial, just a quick little thing of making the acrylic sign, painting it. It was maybe like a 10-second reel, and it has 24 million views.
It's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. I still get people. I was just telling Amy before we recorded, I'm still getting people coming to me going, hey, Amy says she uses you for her acrylic, so here's what I need. Can you do it for me? I've made a couple of really good contacts after your mention.
That's amazing.
It's been absolutely fan. It's kind of a shame that wedding season is over because it was a fun ride while it was going, but it's okay. It's okay. I
It's
know
not
it's
wearing
coming
like
back.
every year, so it's like the running joke. But no, I mean it. I'm so glad it brought you so many customers and new clientele. You're one of the most deserving people ever to have business for. So yeah, it was just a really really sporadic but awesome thing to happen.
I was telling a friend of mine. I was like, he goes, "Oh, so what did you charge her? Because this is obviously worth a lot more." I said, "Honestly, I wasn't going to charge her either way, so I just told her just mention me. I thought like, yeah, fine. If I get whatever I get, I get." And I was like,
Mhm.
Whoa, this is crazy.
I never expected it to blow up that much. I was like, yeah, like I hope I get them like, a few people because I have brides following me too. So a few people turned into a couple.
Yeah, just a few, just a few. So let's start there actually, because I mean, obviously you're doing something right. And you've talked about one of the things I like is you've kind of forked your content a little bit. So you still do the Cricut tutorials, which is what you're known for,
Mhm.
and crafting tutorials and stuff like that. But you've also sort of forked your content a little toward taking those things and turning them into a business, which I really, anyone who knows me knows that that hits right here for me, because I think anyone that's doing this stuff should at least try to make some money doing it.
Yeah.
Um, what do you attribute the incredible growth that you've had on your channel to? Do you think it's a bunch of people going, "Oh wow, I can make money doing this," or is it just right place, right time, and you're doing the right content, or like what's the mix that you seem to have figured out that very few people do figure out?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really interesting. I have as much as it's kind of the same niche that I post my content in, it's all different kind of people. I get the bunch of people that are planning a wedding, right? I have a lot of wedding content on my YouTube channel, on my Instagram, but then I have people that haven't bought a Cricut and don't know how to use it. So I teach beginners on their projects and how to do that. And then there's also a bunch of people that have a Cricut and then want to start a business with it. So I also promote content like that of starting a craft business and making a side hustle out of it because that's what I used to do. And now I'm just strictly educating people now. So I think I've just found a really good, I guess, method of posting my content on social media and, hopping on that algorithm train, right? I think that was a really big thing that happened to especially my Instagram. And
Mhm.
that's how I saw the big difference. I started posting a lot more on Instagram and TikTok. I post whenever, and it's TikTok, but and even on YouTube too. But I think I just tried to narrow down on like my target audience and what they really want, like the content that they ask for, the project tutorials that they need help on. And again, my mission is to help all of the crafters out there as much as I can. And I think as long as that's my focus, I'm still going to keep growing as much as I can. So.
I think what's the most impressive, like I've known you now. I knew you obviously before we had you on the podcast last year, and I've known you for a little while now. And what never ceases to amaze me is the amount of business knowledge you have. Like it's one thing to be a good crafter, it's one thing to have good artistic sense, but I know a lot of people that are really artistic that couldn't, run a business to save their life. I think I'm impressed continuously by how you manage to merge your creativity and a good sense of how to run a business and the right things to do, and warning people about doing dumb things and how to price things correctly. I
Mhm.
think pricing is probably the thing that most people have the most trouble with. People are terrible at pricing things.
Yeah, 1000%.
I get told that all the time. I don't You don't charge enough for your stuff. I know I don't charge enough for my stuff. I know, I've heard it. But where does your business knowledge come from, or is it all just like School of Hard Knocks type stuff? Like you have to. I find it hard to believe this is just the stuff that you've learned, and if it is, my God, you must have been through hell to get there. But how have you learned what you've learned about running a business, and because you're teaching it in a way that people are obviously relating to?
Yeah, let me try and put this into words here. So basically, yeah, I've been self-taught. I
Okay.
did not go to school for business. I majored in communications, and even then, I didn't know anything about social media and starting a business, starting a content creating business, being an influencer. I think I feel like sometimes I'm a big sponge where I love to dive into researching, and whether that's going on Google, watching a few YouTube videos, blog posts, I just kind of dive myself into, okay, like if I'm passionate about something, I want to make this my career. How can I get from the point that I am last year, where I was like, okay, I was bartending and I was doing this on the side, but I really wanted to content create more. And I eventually just said, okay, like I'm going to take this more seriously and I'm going to see. I'm I'm babbling right now. Hold on. I'm not making sense.
You could it's okay, it's okay. We love that's why I have a podcast so I can babble, so
Yeah,
feel free to
it's
babble.
tough. But yeah, no, I've basically been self-taught, and I appreciate you saying that because I don't think a lot of content creators get credit for the behind the scenes work that we do. I love crafting and creating new projects, but it's a lot more than that. There's,
Sure.
scripting and copywriting, and then producing the videos, filming the videos, editing those videos for hours upon hours. I'm a freak and I love editing my content and making it very appealing and fun and visually, I guess, good. And,
Mhm.
I think I've also loved, like, I love talking about social media and the growth because I've seen it happen for me personally. And I know a bunch of other people are looking for that too. But I've just learned as I've gone on this crazy journey, it's hard because I don't know anyone that I know some people, but not near me or in Long Island, New York, and no one's an influencer here, right? Like no one's
True.
a content creator. I don't have groups of people that I meet up with every week and I'm like, this is what I did this week. Like I don't. So it kind of forces yourself to research on your own and just do the best that you can. And I've I've been doing the best I can and
It
really it's been paying off. So
Not having that circle, that's interesting because I think almost that not having that circle of people around you almost makes you better. Because in a weird way, it kind of forces you to try things that you would
yes.
if you were in a group of people and then you said, "Hey, I'm gonna just post TikTok every single day." They would go, "That's great, but you're not gonna be able to sustain that." Now here you are, and I know you've been doing TikTok for over a year,
Mhm.
and you've been doing Reels and TikToks pretty much every day
Yeah.
for that whole entire time, like, even if it's a short one with just a one of the things I love that you do it because it was one of the pieces of advice you gave in one of your videos about how to utilize TikTok and Reels,
Mhm.
but the way you grab a trending sound and you turn it into something Cricut related, like, you just shoehorn Cricut into it somehow, it's like
Yeah, and I've gotten so much traction on those kind of videos, especially on TikTok at first, but now Instagram
Mhm,
appreciates that. And I do work with Cricut now, and it was funny because I I film a few TikToks for them every month, and they reached out and they're like, "Oh, like if you have any ideas, just let us know." So I had some crafting Cricut project tutorial things,
mhm.
and I remember the woman who I was in contact with, she goes, those are great, but we're really looking for that like spoofy, funny, relatable content that you post. And I'm like, wow, they think I'm funny. Like I was shocked that that's the kind of content they wanted from me, but it's very true because crafters love seeing content and people that they can relate to, right? Like and as humans in general, we don't want to feel alone in whatever we're doing. So
Sure.
anytime I get frustrated at forgetting to mirror my design or any little things like that, I'm like, wow, that's a funny thing that I can probably make a reel out of. And I don't know, my mind just goes to these places. I will scroll through Instagram and TikTok, hear a sound, and I'm like, oh, I could do this with that, and then it just comes into a whole big thing.
It's kinda cool that you're working with Cricut and they're not asking you to change to fit them. They're
Mhm.
wanting more Amy. They're not wanting, Amy working for Cricut. They're wanting Amy makes that on the Cricut channel. That's kinda cool actually that you
Which
have
is
that level of freedom with them.
Yeah, it's really cool, and I think for a while as being a crafter influencer, if you will say, crafter content creator,
Mhm.
um, I was trying to fit the mold of everyone else that was in like the crafting niche. Like I didn't know what made myself unique, and now I've finally come to that place of okay, well, I'm a big neutrals person, clearly from my background. Like I love neutral brown tones, but I also love making Cricut projects that aren't so chuggy, like like I'm making tumblers today and I'm making t-shirts. Like I like
Right.
to try new things and different things that don't really seem like they're Cricut projects. So um yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but
Well, I like the way let's talk about that for a second because one of the things that attracted me to your channel in the beginning when I first found your channel was that your projects were outside the box of what you would typically expect a Cricut to do.
Mhm.
When I got mine, I got it pretty much as a vinyl cutter. That's all I got it for, and that's all most people ever use it for, and that's fine. That, you don't have to be pushing the limits of every single thing you own all the time. But
No.
what caught me about your channel the most, and what made me gravitate toward your videos, was that you were doing things with it where it's like, I never thought to use vinyl that way. I never thought to use vinyl that way.
Yeah.
When you did the reminder wall, the agenda wall for
Oh,
your old
yes. Yes.
office.
Mhm.
It was such a great project because it was so many different things, so many different techniques, using the same standoffs I was using to make plaques. You used it to mount stuff to the wall.
Mhm.
All these little things, using vinyl to put something permanent on the acrylic so that when you write and you wipe it off, the vinyl stays there, like stuff like that. And it's like, man, she just really thinks outside the box. And I imagine that's a blessing and a curse because you're doing things that other people don't do. But at the same time, you've kind of painted yourself into this corner where you always have to be like pushing things a little bit like, oh, wait, how do I do that? How do I make this more interesting? It's almost like you've assumed a certain level of basic Cricut knowledge, a basic knowledge of the process. And it's like, okay, we are taking this to the next level now. This is how
Mhm.
you do the next level of things with this machine. Do you feel like a little bit of pressure about that sometimes as you're doing your crafting? Like, how do I make this not another Cricut video?
All the time, honestly. It is a big risk sometimes when I try a Cricut project. And I will say 80% of the time, I do not do test cuts like before I film. So that day where I schedule myself to film, I'm like, we're just going to wing it. And if it doesn't work, then we are screwed. But
You rarely miss a week too, which means either you are way ahead, which I don't think you are. I'm pretty sure you're not. I know there was a point where you were a couple of videos ahead a couple of weeks ago. I don't know how far ahead you get, but I'm either you're really, really lucky, really far ahead, or you're very good at pivoting on a moment's notice and recording a different video if something doesn't work. Like, which of
yeah,
those three is you?
um, I, I definitely, I just had a brain fart. Can you repeat? Can you
Yeah.
repeat?
So it's like, of the three, like, let's say something goes south, right? Do
Uh,
you pivot? Do you do it over? Like, how do you manage? Because you always manage to have a video out. It's rare that you don't have a video out on a Monday night.
so I have my content schedule, and a few months ago, when you're talking about that for my wedding, I had to film
Mm-hmm.
months in advance.
Yep.
So all of like only up until recently, those videos were all filmed like in and I want to say June, July, because again we had the wedding. I took off that
Mm-hmm.
month, and then we were moving, so my office was literally not in like it was not here at all. So I couldn't really film or record or do anything at that point. But I try my best to like produce and script and do everything a few weeks in advance so that way god forbid a video doesn't work out or something, I can film another video or I can like kind of just rearrange it somehow. I'm trying to This is not the right wording that I want to say. Hold on.
You could kind of slide one forward and then
Yeah,
redo the one that didn't work and do that
yeah,
at a later time.
god forbid, but usually like it's never really like that. I have videos that I have on my content schedule. Like I have the videos that I want to film up until February now at this point,
Mm-hmm.
but I am taking, well, this is, I shouldn't be saying this, but I am taking a little break from YouTube as like posting every week because it has been pretty demanding with
Sure.
keeping up with the social media and then also just the day to day things that I have to do as a business owner. So
Of course.
I'm going to be posting YouTube videos every other week starting January, and then that'll give me some free time to promote more resources and fun things for everyone. But no, I mean, I used to struggle a lot with trying to find a video if God forbid something didn't work out. Like I would do a quick like Cricut design space tutorial and you would never know I
Uh-huh.
filmed it like the day before. But now I realize like, okay, if something doesn't work out or, I filmed it wrong or whatever the case may be, I just let it be and I say, okay, we're not going to film this week and we're not going to force this content out. That's not my best work. And yeah, yeah.
Well, it's hard because, you're very active on Instagram and TikTok.
Mhm.
You're producing, multiple videos a week, even if you're just filming and then editing later. And you
Mhm.
are only one person. There
Mhm.
is only one you. There is no, there aren't multiple people working on this. You don't have an editor, you don't have a producer, you don't have someone writing your script, you don't have someone doing your social media for you. So the pace you've been moving at is pretty exceptional, honestly.
It's definitely been a struggle. I now know not to get burnt out and not to do certain things that I used to do,
Mhm.
with, like, my work-life balance. I used to just work all the time and not care about a schedule, and that I realized that was really bad, and my body started literally, like, breaking down. So, I found a good method in, okay, now well, yeah, now my days, I theme my days now. So on Mondays, I do a little catch up on like some admin work, email newsletter stuff. Tuesdays are my filming days. So that's where I batch film all of my stuff. And I also have accumulated a lot of content over the past like year or so. So sometimes an Instagram reel doesn't have to be this full blown thing and I have to re record something. I could just take a clip from a previous reel that I posted a while ago or I didn't post at all, add some text, do whatever the trend is and I need
Sure.
to do it, and then voila, it's done. So it makes my life a bit easier when it comes to editing and filming. But like you said, it's one of the hardest things I think people, like I guess friends and family, have to understand is that I'm this is all on my own. Like I don't have any other employees. Like it's a pretty tough and demanding job, I will say, being a content creator, but it is one of the most fulfilling jobs ever. Just
Sure.
reading all the comments and all the gratitude that people have for me, it really just makes my job worth it. And yeah, I just generally love helping everyone as much as I can. So
I have a friend who's in our space, who's a crafter also, has a YouTube channel. She's doing really well for herself. She also runs a business, so she's kind of in a similar situation to you. And one of the things that we've talked about it a few times actually, is that her family kind of treats it like, "Oh, that's cute. You do the YouTube thing." Like, how does your family look at what you do? I mean, obviously they're supportive. I mean, even
Mhm,
her family, even though
mhm,
she jokes about it with me, but with basically, if it was a little kid, they'd be patting it on the head and going,
mhm,
"Nice, nice. You're such a good boy. You're such a good boy." How
mhm.
does your family look at what you do? What's their reaction like? Do they recognize the scale of your I hate using the word fame, but really it's the only word I can think of at the moment. But how do they perceive what you do, and do they realize how big your channel is and your presence online is?
No, I don't think they realize like the extent of the work that I have to do and also the extent of my, I guess, quote unquote popularity or fame online. So I think that was one of the hardest things, especially they're definitely very supportive now. I will
Mhm.
say in the beginning, it was hard to get some family members on board with what I did, just because they didn't understand what it was. I have a lot
Sure.
of older family members. They don't really know what social media is or how it works and how you can actually make a job with it. I've had one family member that I no longer speak to that told me that I should go get a real job. And that
A
was
real job. Yeah, they always use that term too, a real
always,
job. It's
always.
interesting it's interesting you mentioned that because I had a friend who was an independent, record producer. And he said, his family was always telling him he should go get a real job, go get a real job, he was doing okay, right? He was
Mhm,
doing okay.
mhm.
He was supporting himself, he was supporting his family. He had a nice house, he had everything.
Yeah.
He had everything. The only difference between him and someone else is they were working in a cubicle for somebody else.
Mhm,
So to those
mhm,
people in his family, he didn't have a real job because he was working for himself. And
mhm.
it's so funny you say that because it was the same kind of tone.
Yeah. It's crazy to me how some people don't think that being a business owner and what I'm doing is a real job. I
Mhm.
think the, I guess, disconnect maybe is I'm very big on social media, right? I maybe might make my job seem very fun. And easy to do, and oh, so fun, like my little Cricut hobby that I just post videos on. Like, no, like how do you not think this is a real job? Like, am I getting paid with fake money here? No, like I'm making an income. Like I'm able to support myself, my husband. Like it's I think for people to say that it just shows how little they don't understand or maybe don't want to understand.
Sure.
And at the end of the day, they don't support you. If they're not willing to understand what your job is and how you're able to run a business on your own, then I say, I don't need you in my life.
I always joke about, because way back in the olden days, I was very active on Facebook. And I would always see people, especially on the Friday after Thanksgiving, they would always post, "Do your shopping tomorrow. Buy local. Buy local. It's Small Business Saturday."
Mhm.
I never got an order from any of those people. Not one of them.
Mhm.
And it always blew my mind, because it was always those people that didn't order a damn thing, right?
Kind of a similar situation. I feel like when I started my Instagram, I had all this support, right? Friends,
Mhm.
family. And don't get me wrong, I know the friends and family members that did buy for me and did support
Sure.
me, right? But
Sure.
in the beginning, when I really needed that support the most, I didn't get it from a lot of people.
Right.
And then, of course, years later, when now I have the following and the followers, how many messages have I received? Wow, you've
Oh,
blown up.
sure.
That's great. How have you been? Like, you're doing so good. You're working with Cricut now. That's good. And I'm like, what? I know the people that supported me in the beginning versus people who just hopped on the train after. Like, I know what you're doing.
Isn't it weird? Isn't it weird, because those I have some of those people too. It's like, "Oh, yeah, your business is doing really well. I see you're doing all this, you're doing all that. That's great." It's like, "Oh, maybe you could do this for me." It's like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, when I was getting this off the ground, that's really when I needed you the most."
Right, like, when I
That
wasn't making a lot of steady orders, and
Yeah,
that's when you needed it the most, not when you have, like,
sure.
thousands of people, like, ordering from you now.
It's
It's
almost like, and it's funny it's interesting that you said that, what you said about how you remember the people that were there first. I remember who my first order was.
Mhm,
Now,
mhm,
I remember my first woodworking order, but I remember the literal first thing I ever made for anyone that they paid for,
yeah.
and I 3D printed a Harry Potter wand for somebody,
That's so
and that was what they wanted. They wanted a
right.
Harry Potter wand, and I 3D printed it in wood filament, and I stained it, and I finished it, and I made a box for it, and it was awesome. Like, I was so happy with it.
Mhm,
And I remember that that was the first thing I ever made for
mhm,
money for somebody else. And
right,
that person came back to me over the years, over and over again,
mhm,
and got stuff over and over again. And even things that I couldn't do for him, he came to me first, like, "Hey, can you do this?" "Oh, not
right.
really." "Okay, fine, but I wanted to check with you first."
Yeah,
Those are the
yes.
people.
Mhm,
Those are your people right there.
okay.
Those are your people.
Yeah, 1,000%. Those are the people that are like, "Oh," like, I get a few family members like, "Hey, I just wanted to ask you before, I pay some
Mhm.
random person on Etsy or something. Can you make this for me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course." Like, as long as I have, like, the time to do it and it's not something you need by tomorrow, like,
Sure.
I'm able to do it.
Yeah, if you could plan it out over a long enough timeline, anything is
Yeah.
doable.
Yeah, I still make things for family members, and most of the time I don't charge them because I'm like, whatever, like it's fine. Like
I
not a
I f
business anymore where I'm making products and that's my income. My income now is being on social media and content creating and whatnot. So
one of the things I've found also is that over time, like you said, you don't charge family, and I can actually understand that, because like, just yesterday, I got an order for a Christmas cutting board. I got it We're recording this, it is, December 14th. So, you already know how tight those timelines are if you're
mhm,
listening to this. Even if you're listening, I think this episode's gonna come out the 21st. Yeah, the 21st.
mhm,
So, you know how tight these timelines are for shipping stuff,
mhm,
especially this one's
yeah,
going across the country. And it's like, I was thanking God that I have gotten so many orders, that I've been able to refine my processes enough that I got the wood yesterday morning and the cutting board is in a box in my car tonight.
Wow.
Done, finished, ready to ship. We're just trying to confirm the address it's going to.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it would have went out today. So basically, got the wood yesterday, shipped it the next day. It's
Wow.
I I can I can totally understand though with family, like a lot of times, like, yeah, I'm not going to charge you for that because I know they'll appreciate it, but it's
Mhm.
like I don't need to charge you for that because
Right.
it's a day of work and your
You don't need
family.
it. Yeah. The only thing I'll say, like, whatever the cost of the supplies was for that, that's all
Sure,
for. So
sure,
if
and
you're busy, whatever, that's it.
that's all I ever tell people. I treat a lot. I have a bad habit of treating a lot of people like family too. Like,
Yeah.
I have been told that that's a bad idea, but sometimes you find that it works. Like, for example, with your stuff, when I did your
Mhm.
stuff for you, it's like, how much do you want? I mean, so you and I started looking into doing these table number things a while ago,
Mhm.
and I had given you a sample of one with a
Mhm.
wood base and whatever. And you were like, "Okay, but I wanna pay you." I'm like, "I am not gonna take money from you for a
Yeah.
sample, like, get out of my."
What?
Like, you can tell when 2 business owners start talking about stuff, it's like, "I wanna pay you
Mhm.
for this," like, "I am not
Mhm.
taking money from you." It's always the same thing. So
Mhm.
when I did the signs for your drink signs, it was like, "Oh, yeah, no, I'm not gonna charge you for that, just throw me a mention, that's worth." And little did I know, like, I was like, "That's worth more to me." I didn't think it was worth as much as it was, not gonna lie, but I was like, "That's worth more to me," but that's almost like because we understand as we do business with each other,
Yeah.
I understand what your time is worth. I understand what you bring to the table
Mhm.
as far as your ability to put my stuff out there.
Mhm.
You understand what I bring to the table as I'm going to give you a design that I'm going to agonize over whether it fits together when you because God, after seeing the one you got, it's just like so. Amy ordered for those of you that have been following along, the table number signs that have just been blowing up for me. And Amy ordered from an Etsy seller. She ordered these table numbers and they literally are just floppy and they didn't really fit together correctly. Like it wasn't good. Like you do get a certain amount of wiggle. You have to because the way acrylic is, you're always going to get a certain amount of wiggle. But these were sloppy. They were just sloppy.
I've never received a product that bad from Etsy where I felt compelled to be like, "Hey, this is not okay." It was two pieces. It was the bottom,
Mhm.
and then the arch, and the arch would just either plop right in or slide in, and it was not sliding in or plopping in at all because the lines that it was supposed to go in were completely crooked, too tight, and I was like, "Do you not check your like
That's
product
the
before
part that got me. That's it right there.
you?"
Not that it didn't work, because 'cause I've had pieces that didn't work. I've had to
Right.
rebuy acrylic. But I mean, if anyone's ever ordered a piece of acrylic from me,
Mhm.
especially the tab and slot type signs, they'll notice that I first of all, I batch them together. So if I cut out of one piece of acrylic, those all get wrapped together so you know which bases go with which tops because they're
Mhm.
all different thicknesses. And that's just the way acrylic is. But
Yeah.
number 2, you'll always see in one of those batches a little bit of the masking on the bottom of the acrylic is peeled up because I tested it.
Right.
And that's how you know someone's testing it, because if you get a piece and they're all masked, that was not tested before it was sent to you.
And they're all mixed. So
Yep. It's so weird. It's like I was watching this whole saga with you and I'm like, "I can't believe." And
yeah,
she was like, "No, these were
she
perfect when I
was
sent them." Like, what did they
she
do?
was
Shrink?
nasty. Like
Yeah.
I got like a few messages like, "You're better than this. Like you shouldn't be putting like a shop like this on blast." And I was like, "Listen, it's not about putting someone on blast. It's the fact that like what I do as a craft like sorry, what I do as a content creator, I share my knowledge on starting
Mhm.
a small business. Like
Sure.
these are one of the things that you should never ever do if you're selling products. Like don't not test your products. Don't talk to a customer like that. Like gaslight me into thinking like, no, the product's fine. Like there were such big red flags. I was like, this is just a lesson from everyone to make sure that you don't act like this is a great example of what you should not do.
Yeah. And a lot of those it's I understand, let's play devil's advocate here for a minute. I'm sure that this person has probably gotten a few customers over the years that are probably just jerks, right?
Yeah.
And it makes you put your defenses up in an unnatural way. But that being said, if I can clearly demonstrate a shortcoming in your product, eat it. I mean, literally eat it. You have to. I mean, as a business owner, I
Yeah.
will eat it. There was one customer who I made the table number signs for, and I do tell people that they're not going to friction fit. I can't refine the design every single time I cut them
Yeah.
to friction fit. You're going to have to glue them in some way for them to fit. There was one that she believed the tolerances were a little too low and they were a little wobbly. I was like, "Send them back. I will remake all the bases for you, or I will remake the entire order for you." Still haven't
Mhm.
gotten them back. I imagine I'll get them back. The wedding's not until the summer, which is fine. But I immediately was like, "Okay, so here are the options.
Yeah.
I can recut the bases.
Right.
I can recut the whole thing. I can glue them for you and send them to you assembled. Those are your 3 options." And I made them all available to her. She still has to
Mhm.
figure out what she wants to do with them.
Right.
But I don't understand the idea of being defensive about it. It's like
Yeah.
they're not gonna work for this client.
Mm-mm.
So either you're gonna give this client a good experience by fixing it for them, or you're gonna get yourself a non-returning and bad-mouthing client, which is
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not someone that is compelled to write reviews. I've never been that kind of person. Like I will try my best to write good reviews on everyone that, I order from and whatnot.
Sure.
But you have to do a lot to make me mad
Sure.
and or make me like feel a certain way. And it was just
Exactly.
the unprofessionalism that I was very shocked at. And, like you said, there's a protocol that you do as a business owner for, okay, if the customer doesn't like the product, how there's X, Y, and Z that you should be doing in order to
Mhm.
make sure the customer is happy. Like it's customer service 101. If the customer is happy, that's what matters. You don't have to like the product. You don't have to, like it's just
It's hard because so what I ended up start well, after her. See, this was Jimmy DeResta, who I've had on the show, always says you go to
Mhm.
school on the first one. Well, she was one of my first customers. You were technically my first, but yours
Yeah.
went so smoothly that I got cocky. Hers were hers were the real first customer,
Yeah.
and a lot went wrong, right? But I
Yeah.
learned all the things that could go wrong with that order.
Mhm.
And what I started doing is I started cutting out this gauge for the acrylic that could
Mhm.
basically you cut a sample essentially of the tab and slot, and it's a little jig that you put
Uh,
the pieces in and you
mhm.
can determine the thickness. So what was happening was at the peak of all these wedding orders, I would get the acrylic in, I would
Mhm.
immediately cut this gauge out of every piece of acrylic that hit my shop,
Mhm.
mark the thickness on the masking in giant numbers, and then
Yeah.
put it on my shelf. So now I have multiple designs that account for those differences. So
Mhm.
now it's like, oh, that's 0.215, no problem. I pull out the 0.215 design and I cut that one on that sheet. But I
Yeah.
had to learn that.
Right. Right.
And
And
it's like if
a
I
lot of
had just gotten defensive and said, well, that's so they wiggle. What did you expect? I
mhm.
wouldn't have learned that. The product wouldn't have gotten better and people wouldn't have been as happy with it. So
Yeah, I think some people just don't want to admit when they're wrong, maybe I think maybe she was like, "Well, I've had nothing but great reviews and why is this the," and I
totally
was like,
possible.
You've had a few bad reviews, woman. Like I've seen your
If
Etsy stuff." But even then, like as a business owner, we all make mistakes. It
yes,
happens, but you gotta know when to admit your defeat, when you're wrong, and you learn from it. That's how we grow. Like
we're not making defibrillators or stuff like or
no,
ventilators. We're not making high-end stuff. We're making stuff that you can remake and fix it for someone. And yes, it may
right.
eat into your margins. Yes, it's in fact pretty good chance it's going to eat into your margins, but you know what? That's what the job is.
Yeah, and
That's the job.
that's the risk, But going back to what you said, like making test cuts, very
Mhm.
important, especially with the Cricut. And
Yes.
I remember yesterday you DM'd me because I posted on my story that I was making a Cricut project, and it said it was going to take 45 minutes. And this is for the brand deal that's going to be live on Friday, but
Mhm.
it's fine now because the 21st is getting uploaded. But um, I've never worked with basswood before. It was really cool to
Oof.
work with the Cricut Maker 3. Again,
Yep.
very outside of the box Amy project, we'll say. But I did not know that it takes 14 passes to
Yeah.
cut the basswood, and then it also wasn't cutting through all the way at some point. So I was getting very mad and frustrated.
And that's funny because that's just the way it is. That's
Yeah.
just yeah, and you're
Mhm.
gonna have to probably take an emery board or something and hit the edges of it a little bit to clean up the edges
Yeah.
after it's done.
I
Yep.
took a razor cut and it like at the bottom it didn't cut all the way through, but I was able to cut it so it was fine. I did a few cuts after that to be like, what's going on? Like, how do I really use basswood? So now I know if anyone ever asks me, hey, what are some troubleshooting tips you have? Now I know, say, okay, you could do this, that, whatnot. So,
It's those are the little things I feel like those are the valuable things that you learn through experience, right? Like, the fact that it takes 14 passes. Like, I was watching a video, I forgot what they were cutting. I forgot what they were cutting. I'm pretty sure it was leather.
mm,
And it was like the leather, it took 6 or 7 passes to go through,
okay.
like, thin
Well,
leather, and it's like, "Wow, 7 passes." Like, you watch the machine, it's like, "Oh, yeah, this is gonna take 47 minutes to cut." It's like, "Wait, what?"
I had like 40 some minutes. Like, this was absolutely absurd. You would think like the Cricut would have maybe like a deeper blade of some sort, so it doesn't
Yeah.
have to take 14
Even the
minutes.
deep cut blade, I think
Right.
what it is, I don't think the motors on the Cricut
Yeah.
are powerful enough to drive the blade through in one pass. I
Yeah.
just don't I mean, a human being can't. The Cricut isn't, maybe it just can't do it. I don't know, but it's funny because you see like I've seen all the stuff that because I still have my Explorer Air 2 in mint green, the most beautiful machine that they ever made. And I still love that machine. I love it to death. I will not replace it until it dies and crawls out my front
Yeah.
door to bury itself in my backyard. Like I love that machine dearly. And I see what the maker can do, and I'm like, "Are you ever gonna actually do that on the maker, or are you just gonna take it to your shop and cut it on your laser?" That's what I do. It's like, in my mind, I'm like, the maker would be cool to have that here and not have
Yeah.
to go to my shop,
Mhm.
but the flip side is it would be so much faster to do it at my shop.
1,000%, yeah, and that's like the kind of I don't want to say the downfall of Cricut, but the Cricut is a smaller machine versus
Sure.
and also I say this to a lot of people that want to start small businesses. The Cricut's a great machine to use for your business, but it's also a great machine for what's the word like it's a good gateway machine as well.
It
So if
is.
you want to get
It
into bigger vinyl cutting machines where you're making bigger templates
Yes.
or produce more, it's a great start to start with the Cricut, get used to vinyl cutting at, a smaller size and then work your way up to the bigger, better machines.
I will prove your point right now. The first digital fabrication machine I had was a 3D printer,
Mm,
but the second was my Cricut. And
mm,
from the Cricut, I learned so much about designing for a machine that's gonna cut out of a material and how to lay things out and what your tolerances are and even though I was only cutting vinyl with it, you learn a lot about how your design has to be put together
yeah.
to work on vinyl. Like, it's not just I've talked about this with so many guests because the focus of the show is using technology and digital technology in a creative way, right?
Mhm.
I've talked about this a million times, but people truly don't understand that it's not push button magic when you get
Yeah.
something and you just throw it in this magic software and it's a black box where you hit a button and everything just works like
Yeah.
magic.
Yeah.
When it works perfectly like magic, what you're seeing is a person who's failed a million times at doing
Mhm.
something,
Mhm.
succeeding because of their experience of failing a million times.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize like by failing and making those mistakes, that's how you learn and grow. I started out as every Cricut beginner. I once was someone that didn't have a Cricut, didn't know what it was at one point, and now I've come to here and I've made so many mistakes along
Mhm.
with this crafting journey of mine. But that's the beauty of growth and how we're able to expand our knowledge on everything. And
I have
No.
so many friends that on the inside of the lid of their Cricut, it says, "Did you mirror your design?" They made a vinyl decal that so when they open the machine, oh, you know what? Hold on, okay, you ready? I recorded a whole episode of Because We Make through the microphone on my webcam because I didn't check my inputs before I recorded. Do you know what's on my computer screen right now? Hold on, I'm going to peel it off. I have this.
Check your foot.
Check your inputs. Oh no, my camera's going crazy. No, no, it can't find me now. Hold on. All
Oh,
right. Oh no.
well, there's
Ah. Oh yeah, I got this, Amy. I got this great camera. It's
you were already
amazing.
saying, wow, what a great camera it is. You need to get it.
I'm loading up the software so I can put it back on my face.
Oh God.
Oh my
You
god, that's
can't
so
just
funny.
move it.
Yep, I'm gonna reset it. Hold on.
Okay.
Turn it off. Turn it back on. Track me. Come on. Oh my god, it won't track me now. There it goes. Okay, we're good. Oh my god.
No. But I will say, to go off of that, I didn't even talk about this yet, but I have a lot of thoughts that I just want to say right now, and I can't say
Sure.
them. So I'm a part of 143 Vinyl's VIP group now. So I promote a lot
Mhm.
of their products and whatnot. Not that I wasn't doing that already before I was a VIP because I love
Sure.
their website. But I went on a work trip with a few of their other craft influencers in October to
Mhm.
Vegas, and one of the women that I met there, her name is Corinne Blackstone, and she
Mhm.
has a great tip for mirroring your design if you forget even before you click make it, when you have your design in Cricut Design Space, in space, okay, flip your design.
Yeah.
Go to like the flip area and then just click, or the adjust area or something, and then click flip, so that way, okay, it's good to go, and you don't have to mirror it.
I saw her do that once in a video and I was like, that
Yeah,
is so much better. Like, I'll remember to do that. I will never remember to click that stupid little switch under
yeah.
the thumbnail of the mat that says mirror.
No,
What I
I'll never. It's so hidden too. It should be like,
what I
wait.
don't understand is, like, because one of the things I like about the Cricut is that in the process of making a design, it goes through the steps one at a time.
Mhm,
It knows you're printing on HTV. Alright, granted, if you're doing it on regular vinyl and you're putting it on the back of acrylic and it needs to be mirrored and it doesn't know that,
mhm.
fine, I expect that. But if you're doing something with HTV, there's never a time where you won't need to mirror it.
Right.
Like, so just
Yeah.
if I'm cutting HTV, just tell me, "Hey, dumbass, did you mirror it? You probably didn't. Go back and mirror it now, or flip it, or something. Have you accounted for the fact that this needs to be in reverse?" That's
Yeah.
all.
I know they have it on the final page where it says like make sure, to mirror your design, but it's like it needs to be bigger, bolder, more like a Windows pop-up like, hey, you need
Yeah,
to make sure you're mirrored.
pretend you're asking me to sign up for an email newsletter.
Right. Exactly.
Like, make it that obvious.
Right, and then just make it, optional. So don't show this message again, or keep showing it to me, please, when I have HTV. That'd be a great feature for the design space.
As someone who's kind of become a resource for Cricut crafters in particular, the recent changes to Design Space must have you like I love them because they put it more in line with Adobe Illustrator.
Yes.
A lot of the way it functions now, it's like,
Mhm,
oh, this is like real software now. It's not
mhm,
trash any. I've hated Design Space for so long, and I would get into discussions with people where they're like, well, what do you do otherwise? Like, how do you do your designs in Adobe Illustrator? That's
mhm,
how I do all my designs. But now it's like, no, if you need to whip something up real quick, you can actually do it in Design Space
mhm.
pretty effectively now. Like, they added guides. The layers panel makes a lot more sense.
Oh yeah.
The cutting, the welding, and all that. What Adobe would call Pathfinder and what other apps call Boolean operations, it's all part of Design Space now.
Mhm.
It's so much better. It's like somebody grabbed them over in Utah and said,
Yeah.
guys, stop worrying about the machines. Fix the damn software. The software is awful.
Yeah, I get quite a few complaints like in my DMs, my comments, just oh, Cricut Design Space, it's awful, or I can't figure it out, or it crashes on me all the time. That's one of the other like biggest
Yeah,
complaints
it does. It used to crash a lot. It doesn't really anymore, but it used to crash constantly.
all the time. But for me, it doesn't. Luckily, it hasn't crashed, and it's been good. But yeah, no, I really like Design Space now. It definitely has. Even watching my old YouTube videos when I used to do the screenshot of Cricut Design Space, how much it has changed.
Oh my
I'm
god, it's
wow, like,
incredible.
but it's great. It's a good change. I think having more options like the in the beta version, like the Unite button, and
Hmm.
getting the other ones too. But they're great. Like it just gives crafters more flexibility and more ways to just craft and create, and it's still beginner friendly. It's still not as
That's
intimidating, and that's what's really good. Like
That's it right there, and I don't think that the people complaining, I don't think they realize, but what's happening right now is a good thing because they're being dragged into understanding the way design software works everywhere else.
right.
And what they're gonna learn, they
Mhm.
won't learn it right away, but what's gonna happen, one day they're gonna outgrow Design Space, and they're gonna go get something like Affinity Designer or Inkscape or even Adobe Illustrator, and it's gonna be like, "I understand the concepts here." Even though you may have to adapt to it, the concepts are gonna translate. Because this
Yeah.
idea of welding, that's not a thing. Anywhere on any piece of software, it's not a thing, right? But uniting
Mhm.
it's a Boolean operation and it's in Pathfinder. It's just the way it works. And now people are going to start learning all these features are like, "Oh, I've kind of gotten secretly educated on how every other piece of design software works."
Yeah, and again, like that's why I said before, Cricut is such a great gateway machine because
Mhm.
eventually, if people want to get Adobe Premiere, sorry, if they want to get Adobe Illustrator or InDesign, they're able to. Oh, I know this tool because
Yeah.
Cricut Design Space had a similar thing.
Uh-huh.
It's just great to have that growth for Cricut.
Yeah. I think you know, it's funny because a couple of was it wow, it was like a couple of years ago at this point where they had that whole thing where if you didn't pay for design space, if you didn't pay for access, they were going to really screw you over as a customer.
That
And
was really bad. The
the
backlash that I
backlash,
saw, oh my god. I'm glad that they didn't follow through with that, but
the backlash was swift and severe.
mhm,
And I think they got a wake up call that,
mhm,
hey, your customers are very on board with your products. And we are. I actually bought a silhouette cameo for the cameo 4. I bought one right after that weekend. I bought it. I
yeah,
used it for a weekend. I sent it back on Monday. I thought it was the worst piece of crap ever. I'm like, I'm just going to muddle through with my Cricut. I'll
yeah,
just deal with it. Whatever. If they don't go back on this, then I'm just going to have to
right,
pay for it. But this thing's a piece of crap, right? I was so annoyed with it. My ex-wife walked into the room and I was sitting there with my head in my hand and she goes, "What's the matter?" I'm like, "I can't get this goddamn thing to cut." And she's like, "I don't understand." I was like, "Neither do I. I don't understand. I'm not an idiot, but I can't make this damn thing cut. It would not cut for me." And by the end of the weekend, I had not cut anything with the machine. Back into the box, back to Amazon it went. I never wanted to see it again. All I knew at that moment was, damn it, Cricket, don't screw me. And the backlash came so severely that it was like, oh, they're not going to screw because everyone felt the same way. Like there were people that jumped ship. There were
yeah,
people that jumped ship.
yeah.
But I
It's
think
overwhelming.
they learned a lot about their customer base. And what they learned is that their customer base is loyal because the products work for them,
Yeah,
not because they're just blindly loyal to the company.
no,
And it's almost like they pivoted. Their new products are much more in line with it. Almost seems like they started at thinking, what would a customer want? Not what can we put out there to make a little money
right,
this time. The
and that
products are better.
yeah, and that's the biggest thing any entrepreneur, any business owner should understand, like, it's always about your target audience, your customer, what they want, right? Like,
Hmm.
that's why I think a lot of my success, like, comes from that because I'm always thinking of what does my target audience want to see from me? What do they want to learn from me?
Yeah.
I understand Cricut's standpoint of their business. They wanted to make, maybe a
Uh,
little bit
uh,
more money when it
of
comes to
course.
that new update or it wasn't an update, but the new Cricut design space thing.
Yep.
But they realized, okay, our customers don't like this. We don't want them to be angry, and let's see how we can pivot from this, and maybe let's just not go through with it. And I'm glad they did. You
It
know?
came from, I think it came, I hate to say it because it sounds snotty, but it came from a lack of understanding about who their audience and their users actually
Yeah.
are. If you're a business, you don't care about those fees. Like I
No.
pay, I pay $67 a month for Adobe. I pay $450 to $500 a year for Fusion 360. I
Mhm.
pay for any number of pieces of software that I use to run my
Yep.
business because they run my business. I
Right.
understand that that's going to eat into my profits, but I also understand that my business doesn't exist without them, right?
Right.
But most Cricut owners are not running a business with their Cricut, even though a lot are. Most aren't. They need the fee to be one time. Most Cricut users I know don't have access, and
No.
access is only $10 a month, and people
Right.
don't pay for it. They don't want it, right?
Yeah.
Because it's $10 a month, and they're just making stuff once a month for, they're
Mhm.
making a onesie once a month. They
Yeah.
don't
And
need
that
to
was
spend ten
Yeah, that was
dollars.
the whole deal about I remember it now because they were gonna charge people if they imported uploads or not,
Yeah,
I think just images in general,
yeah,
they were gonna charge
you
for that, and it's like,
yeah,
listen, not everyone's a craft business owner where they're making money, some people wanna get an image from Google quick and create a baby onesie for their child, like,
that's
it
it.
shouldn't have to cost them money to do that, it's the software, the software comes with the machine, of course, but getting the machine and all the accessories,
And
that's a lot.
And the
Just
machines, I mean, I love the machine. I love my Explorer Air 2, which by the way is
Mm.
now that I think about it, is now 4 years old,
Yeah,
right? I love this machine, but it wasn't cheap. When I bought it at full price. It was their second tier machine, so it was
yeah,
what, 249 when I bought it.
yeah.
When you could buy a similar cutter from other companies well under 200. And it was like I bought it because I trusted the brand, I trusted the quality. I mean, if you feel the machines are made like tanks. They all weigh 50 pounds, It's
Oh,
like
I will record some TikToks occasionally, and I recorded an Instagram reel that's gonna go live tomorrow where I'm holding the Cricut machines. And those things are built, man. Like they're not easy to hold. Like I get a good arm workout after that, but no, these machines are very durable and
Mhm.
great. Like it's but I know I wish I didn't sell my Explorer too. I did I think a year
We
and a half ago, maybe
You
2
had
years
the mint green
ago.
one. You had the mint green one too, didn't you?
It was no, it was like a
Oh, the
ugly
rose one.
blue. Like
Okay, okay.
it wasn't even like a light blue or a teal. It was just a bright like
Oh, then it had to go. You
golden
can
blue.
that doesn't That's clashing with Amy's total vibe.
It's so clashing. I was like, oh well, blue's nice. I have said this to myself. If Cricut came out with a line of neutral color Cricuts, I would buy every single one. A brown, a beige. Uh, I would buy every single one. I
For
would
those
be
of you For those of you that haven't, Amy loves her earth tones. Like, watch her videos or go to her Instagram page and look at her highlights for her stories. They're all just color swatches of earth tones. It's freaking amazing.
no, they really are color swatches of.
Literally, they are just color swatches.
It's nice. It's rare to have people, I guess, like you to see and appreciate and not appreciate. What's the word I'm looking for? Just it's rare to have people like you that are very supportive.
Mhm.
My husband, he also says hi and he wishes that he was on the podcast. He keeps threatening me. He's like, I'm gonna make an Instagram that's Alex makes that, and I'm gonna be here. Biggest competitor. I'm like, okay, honey, like you go do that. But when you said that, I was like, yeah, it must be really cool for my husband also he said it before, to see my business that was nothing. It was just
Mhm.
a small idea a crazy idea. I didn't know what was going to happen with it. And to see me go from that point to where I am now, it must be a really cool thing to see it from his eyes as well, because sometimes I forget that this is my job and this is my life now. But it's a good thing, that's like the little imposter syndrome in me. But no, I appreciate all your love. And I think when you surround yourself with like-minded people and people that genuinely support you and appreciate everything you do, I think what you give into this world, you're gonna give back. So,
I completely agree, and I've experienced it in it's interesting because I've experienced it with the maker world. I've
mm,
experienced it as a podcaster. I'm always willing to promote other people doing things. Like I don't, I'm not. There's plenty of room at the table for everybody.
plenty.
But
I
it's
always say that. Like, there's no competition here. Like, if someone wants to do the same thing as me, like someone wants to be another small craft store,
go
let
for it.
them. Like,
Yeah.
you are not them. It's okay because
Hmm.
you are going to thrive and be successful, and so are they. Like, it's
I've
okay.
taught I've taught so many people how to do the things I do.
Yeah.
I've given people advice on starting a podcast. I've given people advice on making cutting boards. I've
Mhm.
given people advice on getting their website up to speed. I don't care. I'll do that all day long. Like
Mhm.
I want all of us to, it sounds like such a hippie thing to say, but that's
Mhm.
who I am. I'm a hippie at heart, right? I want everyone to succeed. I
Yeah.
want if you and I are going to take this walk together and we're all going to succeed together, then let's do it. Let's
Right.
start walking now. Let's go. Where are
Yeah.
we going? Where are we going? Because if I'm already someplace, I'll cut down the grass to make it a little easier for you to get there. And
Right.
that's kind of the way I see everything.
Mm.
And I am absolutely 100%. If anybody wants to do what I do, I will teach you every aspect of it. Because you know what? I know what I bring to the table isn't just the thing I sell, it's me. And I
Right.
think that's what a lot of people screw up. And I think that's something you get better than a lot of the people I know. What you bring to the table isn't I can make a cool thing with the Cricut. What you bring to the table is I'm Amy and I present this in a way that's different and I have a different personality and I have a different set of experiences and that's what makes me special and relatable. And yes, you can work with a bunch of other influencers or you can work with me. And
Mhm.
if you want to work with me, this is the me you get. That's why when you told me that Cricut kind of wanted the TikTok things to be more of your style, it was like, see, even they know that what you bring to the table isn't a Cricut project. It's Amy doing a Cricut project.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what people get wrong. They get so protective of the product that they don't realize that part of the product is the person.
Mhm.
It's
So
this,
many people go ahead. Me.
no, I was gonna say it's like this whole thing with AI art that everyone's freaking out about how
Oh, yeah.
AI is going to take jobs from artists. Let me tell you something.
Mm.
If your job can be taken by a prompt on a computer, then your job isn't you're not doing a very good job. You're
Yeah.
just not. I'm sorry, you're not. If you can be replaced by a randomly algorithmically generated image, then
Mm.
your art isn't very good. That's
Yeah.
not to say you should stop. That's to say improve your art
Prepare.
and deliver it with you.
Mhm.
Like I hate to I hate I don't like to be negative and I'm trying not to be negative, but this AI should be lighting a fire under people. It's like,
It should.
okay, I
Yeah.
can't skate by anymore. I can't just go, "Oh, I make this art. Look how cool it is." It's like, "Okay, but the computer can make that now." You know, woodworkers for years have been arguing about CNCs not being real
Mm.
woodworking because
Mhm.
a CNC can make a perfect cut of anything you ever want to make a cut of. It's like, "Oh, that's not really woodworking." Well, guess what? It's still here. They are not going anywhere. They're only getting better and they're only getting cheaper. So, adapt or die.
Totally. No, but it's so true. I say this almost in every YouTube video where I'm sharing my experience on how to start a craft business or
Mhm.
anything of that realm. Your mind is so very powerful. And if you don't believe in yourself, if you talk negatively, are insecure, jealous of someone else's career and their success, you can't grow from there, right? You can't start a successful business from there if that's your attitude on it.
Sure.
So when you're able to say, okay, no, I'm myself, like I can teach someone exactly what I do, my business model, everything. But the difference is that they're not me and I'm not them. So is it wrong for someone to completely copy everything and start wearing neutrals like me? Yeah, of course. I mean, that would be a little,
That was my plan. I was gonna grow my hair, dye it red, and start wearing neutrals.
But
I
no,
even have your camera, damn it. That's why I got your camera, Amy.
sometimes. um, but no, like if that's the whole point. As long as you're not copying and you see, okay, I don't have competition here, right? We all have room at the
Mhm.
table. We all can grow and be successful in the same industry, the same niche.
Sure.
You're good to go, and
There's a lot of room out there for a lot of people doing the same thing. You know,
right,
was
right.
it you and I think it was you and I that had this conversation where when people talk about market saturation, and I said what a joke that is. I said
Yeah, a
market
real.
saturation market saturation in
Mhm.
my mind tells me that there is a market and it's got a lot of people that want to pay for stuff.
Right.
So don't
And that's a
avoid a
good thing.
market that's saturated.
Mhm.
Get in it. Get your piece.
Yeah, I remember that was the reel that I was pointing out different lies, I guess people
Yes.
would tell themselves,
Yes.
like,
It
"Oh,
was you. Yeah, it
it
was you.
yeah, the market is too saturated. Too many people have crickets and starting businesses." Like, that's a good thing. Like,
Yeah.
figure out how you can be different and you can create your business with it. Like, I think people like to psych themselves out or maybe find any excuse to not do something. And
Sure.
me, on the opposite, I'm such a go-getter. When I want something and I might not know that I can do it, I still am like, what are we doing? How are we going to figure this out? We're going
Mhm.
to do this no matter what. I'm not giving up. And that's, you can't give up. You can't just be like, oh, I failed at this. And oh, well, the market's too saturated. I guess I can't create a craft business. It's like you're finding every excuse to not do what you really want to do. And that's so mind boggling to me.
No no one that ever wanted to do anything said there were too many people doing it for me to do it too, right? That's just procrastination, and
Yeah.
look, I'm not even saying that that's not valid, right? If you don't think you're ready, alright,
Mhm.
granted, but it's
Of
that you're not
course.
ready. It's not that there's a lot of people doing the thing, it's that you're not ready to do the thing yet, and that's
Mhm.
fine.
Yeah.
Not
And that's
everyone's ready to
okay.
jump in headfirst into everything they ever wanna do.
Yeah.
But the idea that because there's a lot of people, I don't know, making cutting boards, you should never make cutting boards and no, there's a lot of people making and selling cutting boards. Guess what? There's more people that want cutting boards than people making cutting boards.
Yeah. It means
Get
that
your ass
product
into your
is
garage and start making them.
Yeah, it means that product is in high demand and, oh crap, like we need more people that can make cutting boards.
Even with the wedding stuff, right?
Mhm.
All the acrylic stuff that I cut from all your referrals, right? What did I end up learning? It wasn't that I was doing something no one else could do, and then I wasn't even doing it cheaper. But what I was doing it better. I
Mhm.
was communicative with the clients. I was offering them fair pricing
Yep.
for a product that all of them are happy with.
Mhm.
And all these things, it's like, yeah, I could very easily just go to AliExpress and buy these and flip them, but that's not
Yeah.
my product, right?
Mhm.
It would be easier for me. 100% it would be easier for me to go to AliExpress and buy acrylic table stands. God, it would make my life so much easier. But at the same time, that's not my product anymore. My product is what I make, and people want to pay me for my product. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and your time and your creativity and your craft behind it, someone
sure.
can easily this is also another conversation that I have. Someone can easily buy something from Amazon and gift it to someone this holiday season. But,
Hmm.
when you actually buy from a small business owner, you're not just, supporting a business, like you're supporting like a person, their dream, their
Yeah.
aspirations, everything behind that. And there's a difference between big companies like Amazon versus small businesses like Vincent Ferrari.
Yep. Yep, and Vincent Ferrari doesn't have a day job anymore, so he could use all that business.
Post another wedding reel and we'll
Oh my god, I can't wait till like March when wedding season starts kicking off again. Whew. It's been wild though, and I really do like I've said it to you personally. I've hinted at it at the beginning of the show, but I really do mean it. I appreciate so much all you've done for me. It means the world to me because realistically before we became friends, you didn't have any reason whatsoever to even be nice to me, and yet you were from the beginning. So I could truthfully say that you have been nice to me since before you had any reason to, and really I can't offer much except friendship, and I
yeah.
appreciate so much your friendship and what
Yeah.
you've done for me and how much your friendship over the last couple of years has meant both to me and to my business, because
No, I,
it's been great having you as a friend,
yeah.
and it's been great introducing you to the people that I consider friends who go, I really like her. She's a go-getter.
No, I that means so much. Thank you. And I appreciate you more than you'll ever know too. I mean, I remember when you first direct messaged me and you're like, hey, like just sparking conversation, like I'm in the creative world too. That's cool. And then you got the courage to be like, hey, you want to be on my podcast? I was like, whoa, I've never been on a podcast before. I would love to be on your podcast. This is awesome. But then ever since then, like we've just bonded so much over
Mhm.
being in the same industry, but not at the same time, and being entrepreneurs and then being creatives. Like it's just I've vented to you before about my personal life, and you have too. Like it's
Mhm.
just it's rare to find people like you that generally want to see good for you, but also are in the same industry and just appreciate what you do is for all the creators. So
Oh,
yeah,
I I I really appreciate what you do. I appreciate how much you've done to help the people that are in your space even. And I think it just goes to show that what we were talking about a few minutes ago, where there's plenty of room at the table, that you truly believe that, because you are actually bringing people kicking and screaming, dragging them by the ear to the table and saying, eat, eat.
oh
That's
yeah,
the Long Island girl in you. There's always, you just put another pot on. It's fine. Come eat, come eat.
yeah. Like I posted the reel the other day of what was it, of like blinking at people that didn't open their Cricut as soon as they opened it or as soon as they got it. And I'm like, no, I'm forcing you. Like, and I bet from that reel, because it got quite a few comments and traction, I
Mhm.
bet at least one of those people said, okay, today's the day that I'm going to open my Cricut. And if that's what happened because of that reel and the funniness behind it, my job is done. Like
You've opened up what they don't realize, and they will, but what they don't realize is you've just opened them up to a whole new world that they didn't know existed, and
yeah,
they're gonna feel so unleashed when they start playing around.
I
They'll
get
get
it
over the
too. Like, oh my gosh, you helped me start my craft business, or hey, I got a Cricut because of you. And I'm like, oh really? That's awesome. But like holy shit, like I have that like influence on people. I have that power, and I think that's something that took me quite a long time to realize as a creator. Like, oh my god, what I say and do really affects a lot of people. Like,
I had
did.
that moment in August, when I ended Because We Make.
Hmm.
And I thought it was like, okay, this was a cool podcast. It was good. It had its run, and that's the end of it. And I started getting messages like, "Bro, you don't understand. I used to every Wednesday. It was like my shop. It was my shop company. Hearing you and Brooke or you and Ethan. It was my thing. I thrived on having your podcast to listen to, and it made my life so much better, and I enjoyed it so much. And I didn't realize, and this isn't me giving myself a pat on the back, but it's to kind of go along with what you're saying, where I didn't
Oh
even
yeah.
realize that what I was doing, because all I was doing was getting makers on a show and having a chat, or maybe having a chat with my co-host, just me and my buddies, just talking.
Hmm.
And you don't realize the impression you're having on people until even if you just stop doing it for a while and you start going, oh my God, like these people really depend on it. And when I started this up again and I said, look, I'm about to lose my day job. Um, if I'm going to do this podcast, I need some serious financial support. And I had, 10 different people at multiple different levels supporting the show before the first episode even dropped.
Hmm.
And it was like, oh my God, this really does mean something to somebody. And I think, you know, as I don't like to call myself an influencer because I don't think I am one, but as a content creator with influence, that's what I'm going to call myself.
Ah, I
A
like that.
content creator with influence. I've started to realize, like, no, what you do is actually more important than you even give yourself credit for.
Hmm.
And I think that all of us in the content creation space should probably once in a while just step back and appreciate just how much of an impact we're having on people's lives, even if we're only doing something that we think it's just, oh, this is just something I like to do,
Yeah,
you know?
agreed 1,000%. Even that's kind of like where the imposter syndrome comes from. I remember we had that conversation before, and it used to be pretty bad for me. I think maybe like in the beginning of this year, but I don't know, something changed, man. I guess maybe the growth that I saw with my communities, or maybe that I just started realizing, like, no, Amy, you work your ass off to get to where
Yeah.
you are today, and look at how far you've come. Hearing the fact that I had 8,553 subscribers on YouTube in April of last year when I went on your podcast for the first time is like, what? Like, I have like 70,000 plus more now. It's crazy to see how much can change within your life in a year, in 2 years. And I think we as humans should always remind ourselves of the progress that we've done, because it's really important to acknowledge that and be like, how did
Yeah.
I do that?
It is okay. Yeah. I think,
There's nothing cocky about it either. It's
and
not like, look at me, I have subscribers. Like, I don't think I'm a different person because I have
yeah, I
followers.
can confirm
Like,
you are definitely not a different person.
no, I don't treat people differently. I'm not. I mean, it makes that you can't be
Do
like,
you
no,
understand? Do you
like,
understand? I wear sunglasses now inside just because I'm Amy.
it's like, no, like, I would never, like, it's crazy to see how these like TikTok influencers and the people that, they let the fame really go up their heads. But I can't ever see myself being that kind of person. I love
No.
being able to relate and just be the
And
genuine me that I am. So
at the same time, um, I've never found anyone that's super humble to be somebody I wanted to emulate. Like
yeah,
I someone, a little bit of cockiness or a little bit of awareness of where you are in the world or where you are in a space. That to me is a more attractive quality than false humility, because I
right.
think a lot of people turn on the false humility to
Mhm.
a level that it's a little bit ridiculous.
Mhm.
It's I understand that we don't embrace self-praise in this world at
No.
all. Like, it's not acceptable to praise yourself. But sometimes, on rare occasions, and this is from me to my audience, I'm just telling you, look at your accomplishments,
Yeah.
take your hand, just pat yourself on the back a little bit, because it's okay to do that. It's okay to acknowledge when you've done something good. It's okay to acknowledge that you're successful. It's okay to acknowledge you're good at what you do. It's
Mhm.
okay to acknowledge that you're the best at what you do. Whatever gets you through, it's okay. It's okay, because you know what? There's no rule that says you can't go out there and say you are the best at what you do.
Mhm.
On the very I'm pretty sure it still says it. I don't know if when I rebranded, I changed it. But when Because We Make was in the Apple Podcast directory, I literally said in the description of the podcast, the best making and creativity podcast on the internet.
Mhm.
Is it? I don't
No,
know. Prove it's not.
no.
Prove it's not. And that's how I live my life.
Yeah.
Prove I'm not the best podcast host on the internet.
I
Go
like
ahead.
you.
Prove it.
I
I
like
dare you.
you like that. I think I should listen to you more often.
I have these little nuggets from time to time. They squirt out every once in a while, just a little tiny nugget of wisdom. But
You have a lot of
seriously, just pat
thoughts.
yourself on the back,
Yeah.
recognize your accomplishments, recognize that you've worked really hard. Like you just said, you worked your ass off to get where you are. You weren't handed 80,000 people on YouTube. You weren't handed 95,000 people on Instagram. You
Yeah.
earned every single one of those pairs of eyeballs.
Mhm.
And it's okay to go, yeah, you know what? I did earn this. I did. I did. I earned it. I'm not taking it for granted. There's a difference, right? You can admit that you earned something and still not take it for granted. That those are not the same thing, and
No.
people
Yeah.
conflate them a lot, right?
Mhm.
But you earned where you are, and you earned it by being genuine. You earned it by being you. You earned it by producing things that people want to see, and you put a lot of effort and thought into it, and it shows.
Yeah.
And that's how Amy got to where Amy is today. So
How Amy made that.
That's how Amy made Amy.
Amy made everything.
Why don't we switch over and do our things of the week this week? Now, your thing of the week, I was going to say is outside of the box, but that's almost a little bit too easy of a pun to make. So, what's your thing of the week this week, Amy?
So my thing of the week is something that I made this past weekend, and it is one of my guilty pleasure. Well, it is one of my guilty pleasures. It is Trader Joe's banana bread. It is just chef's kiss. It is perfect. Why? Because I mean, I feel like the holiday season, I say it's bulking season, but I always eat a lot more sweets and baked goods
Mhm.
around this time. But so banana bread's great. It could be a great breakfast. It could be a great dessert. It could be a great quick last minute thing you need for, going to a holiday party or something, or just whatever you need. But Trader Joe's has my heart, and their banana bread is just amazing. So that's my thing.
I, I am just going to say this, as everyone who listens to this probably already knows, I am a big Trader Joe's devotee. Now, granted, I have an Instagram that has not been updated in a while. That's going to get fixed next year. I'm going to go back to doing Snacker Joe's again. But one of the things that blows my mind about Trader Joe's, above all else, is when you buy a mix from them, if you follow the directions, it comes out perfect. I don't know what crazy mad scientists come up with their mixes, but if you follow their directions to the letter,
Hmm.
everything comes out exactly correctly. I bought the spring cupcake mix. And they are basically vanilla cupcakes with a green buttercream frosting, and they were the best cupcakes I have ever made. And they were out of a mix. They were perfect. I just threw everything in the KitchenAid and just let it go,
Yeah,
and then it
I
was amazing.
I love that. Trader Joe's just makes it so easy. I
Yep.
do basically all of my grocery shopping from there, and even everything slaps. Like their pumpkin bread muffin mix.
Their cornbread mix is the best cornbread
Cornbread
mix on
is
the planet.
the best, absolutely
It,
the best. I will
it's
not
the
fight with
best, and it's got little pieces of corn in it, which make me
that.
very happy.
It's corn.
We should totally. I've always, it's funny, when I was really in the peak of Snacker Joe's, I really wanted to do a Trader Joe's podcast, like really bad. And oh my god, if I could find I would have to have a co-host for that. But man, would I love to do a Trader
That would
Joe's
be
podcast.
really cool. Yeah, I mean, like you could. I have so many content ideas for that. That'd be awesome.
We should talk. We should talk. I'm sure
Yeah, I'd
adding
be so
another
down
thing to
for
your plate.
that.
Adding another thing to your plate surely won't be a problem.
Oh no, yeah, just add it to the flaming fire that I have of like the long to do
it's
list. But
it's fine. Everything's
fine,
fine. It's
yeah.
fine.
So, what's your thing of the week?
So my thing of the week is actually something that I've been eyeballing. So this was announced over the summer and then it wasn't available. And I've been eyeballing it for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I'm like, I really need this damn thing. So for those of you that remember, back in May, I got a Microsoft Surface Laptop Studio, and it was a super high end model. I maxed it out. Every option I could get, I got. So it was the most expensive computer I have ever bought in my life, but I had to because I do so much on it, and I only buy a new laptop every 5 to 6 years. So it's like if I'm going to buy a laptop, it's going to be a high end machine. It charges over USB-C, but if I really push it, sometimes the battery just isn't the greatest, even though it's generally good. So I saw this thing, and it's the Anker 737 PowerCore Power Bank. It has a 24,000 milliamp hour battery, two USB-C ports, and a USB-A port. It can charge my laptop from a battery pack, and it puts 140 watts out, which is actually more than the wall charger for my laptop, which is
That's
only
not
120. So
expensive.
it's a beast. It weighs a ton. It's the size of a brick, but when I know I'm not going to be home for a while, I know I can throw this in my bag and at least get another 2 hours out of my laptop just from this. Plus, it has a screen, and on the screen, it'll show you which devices that are connected to which ports are drawing power, which is really cool. So, like, I had my AirPods plugged into it yesterday, and when they were done charging, you could see the power draw just drop to nothing, and it was just a trickle charge after that, just to keep juice going into it. It's an amazing. It doesn't come with a charger for it,
Hmm.
So you need to have a high output USB-C charger. So if you have like a MacBook charger with USB-C, that should be enough to charge it, or something similar. I have a power adapter that's USB-C that I carry with me for my laptop also. So it charges this just fine. So yeah, it's the Anker 737. It's a 24K milliamp hour 3-port charger. I'll have the link on Amazon. This thing is so over the top ridiculous, but it's worth every freaking penny. It will charge everything you have, and you'll have multiple charges out of it. It's a fantastic device. So
Yeah,
that's my thing of
honestly,
the
I
week.
need that. Like for my editing, and like I use my laptop all the time. It's the only device I have, but
Mm-hmm.
my laptop dies pretty quickly, and it's because I've used to overcharge it a lot, and I it's something I definitely need to invest in.
Yeah. Are you using Final Cut?
Yes.
Yeah. So Final Cut, while it performs like a mother, it
Hmm.
also drains power like a mother.
It's the worst. I'll be editing, and then 2 seconds later, your laptop's about to die. I'm like, really? I just charged it.
Just be glad you're not using Premiere, because it's even worse on battery on a Mac. It's
That's what
it
I've heard. I mean,
yeah.
I would like to get Premiere, but eh.
I love Premiere. I live in Premiere. I live in all the Adobe. I speak Adobe natively. But as far as battery life, yeah, if you got a battery that's a little dodgy, stick with Final Cut until you get a better one.
Yeah, yeah. No, I definitely will stick with my Final Cut. I can't fix. What's the saying? Don't break what.
Don't fix what ain't broken.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So, you know what else? You know what's not broken? The number of people that support this show financially, and those people include Matthew Serio from Artigiano Serio, Big Al Schultz of New York Woodworks, Tori Decker of Tori Did It, Ed Swanson of Ed's Clocks and More, Jake Drews of Make with Jake, Meg and Chris from Onyx Designs Woodwork, Christian Neary from Warren Works, Jeff Stein, aka A Weird Guy, Kim and Garrett from Kim and Garrett Make It, Rory Langefeld of RLL Woodworks and DIY, Robert J. Keller, Rebecca Cole of Beck C Designs, Brian Arsenault, the Seven Hills Maker, Lars Coleman of Colorado Multicraft, Dave Bauer of Dave Bauer Art, Jeremy Spees, Mike of Pixels to Prototype, Donald LeBlanc of Fun with Woodworking, and new to the list and back on the list, the one and only Grant Alexander from the Clamp podcast. And I really appreciate all the people that donate to the show financially. As this episode drops, it is December 21st, and Christmas is coming. And thankfully, without a day job, you guys have made that burden a little easier. And I tremendously appreciate the financial support. But I also appreciate support in any way you can offer it. So if that's sharing the show, suggesting a guest, whatever you can do, letting people know, writing a review. Like I said last week, writing a review helps because the show changed names. And, that's a good excuse to write a new review. I could always use some new reviews over there. So if you have a moment, jump on over to wherever you hear this podcast and leave a review. I really appreciate it. I'll read any new reviews I get on air. We always did. But I really appreciate all of it because I can't do this show without you. And frankly, I wouldn't want to do the show without you. So thanks for all you do to support the show and to support me in this transitional phase of my life. Amy, it has been an absolute pleasure catching up with you. I'm so happy. I'm so happy for all the success that you've had over the last year and a half. I hope it continues. I hope you keep blowing up. I hope nothing but good things happen for you in the new year. I can't wait to see what comes of your new brand deal and all the other stuff you have going on. And it's been an absolute joy being your friend. And like I said earlier, I really owe you a great deal, not just for your friendship, but for all you've done for me as an entrepreneur. And I really, really appreciate it. And I appreciate you. So.
Thank you. You've done very much a lot for me too, and I'm so happy that I was able to come on the podcast again. Meant the world. We should do this every year now, next year. What's the next date?
The annual Amy update. We'll do the next year. You'll be at like 500,000 when I have you on. Jesus.
God.
I mean, if you continue at pace, you'll be at 880,000 the next time I have you on because you grow tenfold between visits.
That would be a dream. No, I mean, honestly, once I hit 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, my life will be complete. That's it. I just want the subscriber plaque, like right there on
You want that silver play button sitting on your wall.
Yes, I need that. But yes, no, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure being on your podcast. I also have a recommendation after for someone that you might want on your podcast.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, well, I'll grab that from you when we're all done.
Sounds good.
In the meantime, where can people find you if they want to follow your content and enjoy the amazing volume of things that you put out into the world on a daily basis?
Basically every platform. I do have Instagram that we talked about, TikTok. I have my website, www.amymakesthat.com. Basically any platform. If you have, no, what am I saying? Basically any platform, my name will be Amy Makes That. Nothing else other than that. I'm trying to think. I have Facebook. I have Pinterest. I have some pins on there. I
I think that's
think
everybody.
I think that's really it. I mean, I have an Amazon shop too. Of a lot of people like to know what my equipment is and blanks, Cricut stuff, all that. I have that there. But I think that's it. Yeah. And if you ever need vinyl, don't forget to use the code Amy5 with 143vinyl.com.
There we go. And of course, if you need anything acrylic, there is one acrylic cutting company that is officially endorsed by Amy Makes That.
Yes, Ferrari in the making right now. He is your man for anything acrylic or anything wedding. Basically, he's phenomenal.
I'm gonna isolate that and use that on Instagram going forward. So congratulations, you just became my spokesperson.
That's
Thank you
great.
so thank you so much for coming on, and thank you, the listener, for listening. I really appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a Merry Christmas, because,
Yes.
like I said, this comes out the 21st, which means Christmas is in a few days. I hope you enjoy it. I don't know if there's going to be an episode next week. I have a feeler out to a specific guest who's a little outside of what I normally do. If that doesn't happen, then I'm probably just going to take the week off and we'll get back to it the following week. So have a great week. Have a Merry Christmas. And I will catch you all on the flip side.
Happy holidays.